Alrighty, we're live. Hello, dear Starshines. Welcome to another edition of the Lunchtime Chats. I'll give everybody a moment to get on board. For those of you who are new, my name is Christina, and I am a consciousness acceleration expert. And we are here to talk about those topics and issues that are significant for us starseeds, wayshowers, and new paradigm visionaries. We have capacities, we have abilities, we have perspectives that are rarely met in today's collective narrative. And so I am here to discuss these topics and issues that trip us up in our sovereignty and our multidimensionality. And I'm going to do to the best of my ability to provide a liberated perspective to these pieces that perhaps are in the way of us really stepping into our authentic truth, living our authentic truth as human starshines in this realm. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, dear sister Carol and Tony. Good, nice to see you guys. It's been a while, Tony. Welcome, welcome. All right, so it's a beautiful, beautiful spring day here in the Northeast. So I'm so happy I actually get to have you guys outside with me today. There's no wind. The sound will be good. Oh yeah, speaking of sound, please confirm that the sound is good. Just give me a thumbs up and let me know that the sound is 5x5. I have some interesting things to be talking about with you guys. Awesome. Thank you, Tony. All right. So in our collective at the Light Body Academy, you know, we are all beings dedicated towards liberation and unwinding blind spots, embracing our multidimensional nature and embracing who we are as maybe what's better referred to as full spectrum humans, activated humans that engage in both the seen and the unseen realms as creators of this reality. And that can be, you know, working with Dreamtime. That could be exercising your legs as a tracker, tracking energy. That could be focusing on the inner self, building a strong energy field, interconnection, all that stuff. But, you know, where the rubber meets the road is how we show up in this world. And the fact is that the world is going through so much change and chaos. You know, it's really, even though we wish we didn't have to participate in a lot of this, we kind of don't really have a choice. So we surrender into being in the soup, right? We surrender into it, doing the best we can. And what I'm discovering is that the more we do this, the more alchemy happens, the quicker alchemy happens. You know, there's a lot of things shifting and changing very quickly. And it feels like it's a direct result from our own inner alchemy that we're doing. So I feel like, you know, this crazy times, these miraculous times, these times of transition and challenge and suffering and stuff like this, by us staying engaged, we are having such a impactful presence to the collective. Now, that's not to say the collective isn't wild and crazy. It's not to say that there's not a lot of toxic narratives out there meant to trigger and harm and all these things. But we are here with the perspective, with an inner knowing, with an inner connection, where we are actually able to decode these things. And as we decode them, as we liberate ourselves from the consciousness of these different 4D narratives that have a lot of history and connection into our subconscious and our ancestry and our physical bodies, you know, as we decode these things, it loosens the grip for so many other people. And what I'm talking about is, you know, these 4D fields, these 4D, you know, those nesting dolls of reality, right? That 4D collective field, linear time. You know, there's a lot of narratives in there that are touching on things that have a deep history in humanity. You know, like the Saturn control systems, for example. And that's pretty much the organizing forces of our money, of our medicine, of our education, of our government, of our military. You know what I mean? It's like they seem like larger than life forces that, you know, who is an individual against those kinds of forces? And, you know, and we're proving that who is an individual at into these forces. It's that, this is a nesting doll, one of the layers within many nesting dolls that's creating our reality. And it's time. The fact is that it's time that nesting doll, that those Saturnian, we'll say dark lords have been dominating and influencing for so long. It doesn't have the scaffolding that it used to have. It doesn't have the energy charge that it used to have. So it's falling away. And what has to happen first? We have to wake up to the lies that we believed about what it is, and then we are more willing to let it fall away. You see what I mean? So some of these things that people are waking up to, I mean, politics is a great, is a great example, right? It's this madhouse chaos in many different directions on many sides, and it's, people are waking up to things they never imagined to be possible about our systems, about our government, about the finances, all this stuff. And it's creates a lot of suffering. It creates a lot of fear. It creates a lot of reaction, right? But these truths have to get revealed, or else we won't be willing to let them fall away when it reaches that critical mass of the crumble. Right, because that nesting doll that was holding those Saturn programs in place is dissolving and falling apart, which means how things ran before are no longer supported energetically in these nesting dolls, and it falls apart in this reality as well. Now, I'm going to backtrack a little bit and remind everybody that, everything that we see in this reality does not start here. It started beyond the visual spectrum, right? Some of it is stuff from our soul's journey. Some of it is stuff that's held by our ancestors. Others is stuff that we actively create within our dream time, with our attention, with our intention, with our desires, right? So we have all these unseen factors influencing what's manifesting in the here and now. And those, for a long time, there were unseen factors in those nesting doll fields that were holding these structures together. And we have a lot of ancestral connection to these structures. This is the thing. The financial system has been in place for a very long time. And it was actively used as an enslavement system in the culture of humanity for a long time. And then you have the military. It's like the relationship to the military. There's a lots of drama in ancestry in relationship to military. Especially being forcefully conscripted to participate. So these things are falling away. The truths are getting revealed. It's very shocking, and there's a lot of reaction. And to add to the confusion of it all, there's also a massive amount of addiction that is distorting people's relationship to what's truly going on. It's distorting their actual capacity to show up in a centered way to what's really going on. I might have mentioned this in another chat, but there's a wonderful podcast by, I can't remember his name, but the channel on YouTube is called The Diary of a CEO. And he had an addiction specialist. She was a psychiatrist on there, and she studied the brain and dopamine. And one of the things that she pointed out is that the pleasure center and the pain center are the same parts of the brain. And that when you have too much pleasure, or when you have too much dopamine, your dopamine receptors downgrade, which means it takes even more of a threshold in order to experience contentment and pleasure. And when we're online and people are experiencing outrage, people are experiencing righteous indignation, that releases dopamine. So that becomes, unless someone keeps it in check, which many don't, becomes an addiction. And that means now that the pain pleasure centers in your brain are not as present, are not as in balance with your life. So things that normally would be important to you are not as important to you anymore, right? So this kind of distortion of an addict brain takes over the whole rest of your life, even if what you're addicted to is only for a few hours a day, right? And there's other kinds of addictions as well. You guys know this. It could be physical. It could be, there's all sorts of substances, and there's people who are addicted to drama. It's a real affliction. So adding that into the mix of this falling away, it's kind of creating a delay in the realizations collectively, that we need to meet critical mass for these things to fall away. And, these nesting dolls, the 4D nesting dolls, has many layers within it, right? So there's and there is something to satiate no matter what layer of awareness that you're awoke to. I mean, if you believe, this is the 3D world, and, the finance, politics, and life is just, what the program is, and that's it, there's a certain spectrum of narrative meant for you. But if you are an empath or a starseed or a contactee or something, you have a whole nother level of reality as possible, that's available to you in the here and now, and what's making up this reality. So therefore, there's a stack of narratives available for you, right? So it doesn't matter how expanded you are in your awareness of reality, there is a program in the 4D field that's just for you. Okay, remember, these systems have been analyzing us and collecting data on us. I'm talking about millions upon millions of data points on us and our behavior, and it's been analyzed, and they know us better than we know ourselves in most cases. And this is kind of scary because, in the surveillance capitalism model, it's all about capturing our attention and selling us things, and increasing the likelihood that we go a certain direction or visit a certain store, or you know what I mean. It influences all this, even what we're going to when we go vote, right? This was already been revealed in those chamber sessions, congressional chamber sessions, back in 2014. So this is like 11 years later. You can imagine how advanced the technology has gotten now, right? So I say all these pieces because I have some interesting challenges that were posed to our group. So, and I already kind of set up, our group is expanded more than the average field, but we still run into hiccups. We still run into pieces that really get our goat, so to speak. And I say we, usually it's one or two people in the group. They share a video and everybody has watch it, or not everybody, but certain people are drawn to watch it. And then now they have to deal with the thoughts and feelings, the triggering stuff that comes up from the video. And this is a really common thing to happen for us, I'm going to say visionaries and starseeds, because we're not satiated by the CNN, we're not satiated by the Fox, we're not satiated by that level of narrative, because we can feel and sense just how distorted and far away from the truth that it is. And here's the thing, this is I was listening to this podcast. It was a colonel talking about the art of misinformation, and one of the things in there was that in order for misinformation, disinformation, however you want to categorize that, in order for it to actually work, it has to be at least like 60-70% truth. And so 60-70% is truth, and then they squeeze in 30 to 40% of the distortion of the lie, and that is how they're able to control how people feel, what people, herd mentality of thinking, is by using this art form of twisting information. Now, this is especially true when you get into alternative media as well. Remember, I tell you guys, there's no media out there in the social space that is about informing you of the truth. There isn't any. And I know that's a blanket statement. It seems like, how in the heck can I say that? Don't I know about, I don't know, Alex Jones, or sorry, my thing was about to fall, Alex Jones or Joe Rogan or who are some of the other big names? Whatever, you guys know. I don't need to reiterate it here. But the fact is, no, this isn't true. It is all crafted. Even those guys. So those guys are on their cell phones. Those guys are on the internet. Those guys are getting influenced too by these algorithms. So those guys are, their attention and intention is getting steered by the same algorithms that you and I are. You see what I mean? So, I think I have a little bit of, I'm in a really lucky space because I can pretty much only watch what people send to me. So if someone in Light Body sends me something, I'll watch that most of the time, not always, but usually. Or if one of you guys, send me a video and you really want my take on it, I'll watch that. So the algorithms aren't quite as, dominant in what gets put in front of me, but it's still a thing. I'm getting somewhere here. It's going to take a minute because there's lots of layers within this 4D field. And this is what I want to do. I want to pick apart the 4D field so you understand that, you know, as as Richard Hoagland coined so many years ago, the lie is different at every level. The misinformation is different at every level. And when we are expanding beyond the typical human 3D perception and we're still running into misinformation, we're still running into distortions, it can get rather discouraging. It is until it's not. And I'm not saying that it's always going to be a not or it's always going to be an is. We are fluxing. We are sine wave flying through flying through time space, right? So there's never a always or never. That does not ever. That is not true because we're in constant change all the time, constant shifting. And as I was saying earlier, we are in a very tumultuous time because of the chaos that's necessary to spur the change that is onsetting right now. Right. So we are here to help stabilize you, me, all of us who are awake to these other levels. We're here to help stabilize that consciousness by staying centered in our being. Yeah, we're going to get knocked off kilter here and there. Right. But it's not going to rule our existence. Well, until it does for a week or so, right? Depending on how triggering the narrative is. So I want to draw your guys' attention to a specific one because Dear Sister Starshine really spun from this, and I was surprised. But then I listened to, actually I listened to half of it, but I recognized why it created such a spin. And it's because this particular network, it's called the United Network News. You guys know this with Kimberly Gogwin. Am I saying this correctly? So, and I knew a little bit about this backstory. Dear Starshine brought my attention to it a few years ago because I think he's a fan, and he wanted to know my perspective on it. And the backstory he gave me was that Kimberly is a high-ranking person within Empire. So what I mean by Empire, and I've talked about this many times, but I'm going to recap it right here real quick, is this transgalactic interdimensional empire that is based on the commodification of life force energy. Okay, so in the movie Jupiter Ascending, if you guys haven't seen it, go see it. It's a good movie. It's good sci-fi, right? It's kind of like the cross. People coin it as the cross between Matrix and Star Wars, right? Because it goes into galactic empire, like in Star Wars, but it really outlines the whole farming of loosh and life force energy narrative that is in the Matrix, right? So the main character, her name's Jupiter, and she thinks she's just an everyday human. Things unfold in a funny kind of way, and it turns out that she is the reincarnation of a Mog queen. I'm going to call them in the Empire, a Mog queen within the Empire. And because she is the incarnation of this being, she has all of the rights that this being and ownership of all of these things that the previous incarnation had, but it's all kept in the administration of Empire. So she has to leave this, she ends up leaving the planet to go through the administration system of Empire, which happens to be, I think, on Jupiter, right? To lay claim to her heritage. Now, I know I'm totally ruining the movie, but it's still kind of interesting. There's some, little side things in there that are cool. Anyway, this Kimberly character that is in part of this network news is said to be who the real person that this Jupiter character is portraying. Okay, so I'm talking about a real live human being that does news, an alternative news network. It's called United Network News, and she does the real news reports. And a lot of it is through the spectrum of black hats, white hats. Those of you who are familiar with alternative narratives understand what I mean by that. And it also ties into also the acknowledgement that systems are falling apart, right? But the interesting thing is the energy that the report is coming from, and this is really what I want to get to with you guys. You're a multidimensional being. I'm a multidimensional being. We may not be able to define and be fully descriptive in the levels that we are aware on, but we are aware. We do get data sets from those levels, even if we can't describe them. We do get feelings, hunches. We do get data sets through our emotional field, which is the primary vehicle for the 4D field to influence us with, is emotion, right? We pick up things on the 4D field. We cognitively don't know where it's coming from or why, but it is informing us in some way. It's making us feel uneasy, giving us a pit in our stomach, maybe taking us to a feeling of helplessness, hopelessness. And this is the whole point of these distortions in the 4D field, is to keep us latched on to that feeling of helpless, hopeless, doubtful, all these things. Versus in those moments when, say, in ceremony or in a deep meditation, where you feel overwhelmed with bliss and you feel interconnected with all things, and your heart is open, and you're just in an ecstatic state behind your eyes in your body, right? No, that's not a beneficial place for you to be necessarily for the agenda that this empire has. Now, even if you do reach that state, there's still some losing technology going on. So this kind of, when these kinds of things happen, this is where people start getting really discouraged, because it's like, God, does the rabbit hole of deception ever end? And I'm going to tell you, no, it doesn't ever end. But the point is not to get out of all the rabbit holes. It's really about getting in touch with oneself and navigating from that place. Now, oneself is a feeling, it's a sensation, it's a state of being when you're anchored in that way. And when you're in that state of being and engaging in these different delusions, it's no big deal. It's like, oh yeah, that's interesting. People are really buying into that one, right? It's not that big of a deal, and it doesn't really influence you, because you're not investing your life force energy into those Saturn matrices that are falling away. You're not investing your life force energy into the different programs that tell us this is how we have to live our life. This is how we have to make a living. This is how we have to approach conflict. This is how, this is all we have to choose from on what food we're going to nourish our bodies with. You see what I mean? It's like we choose stuff outside of the program. I mean, really, just think about your day. When you want to get something, you're thinking about, the optimal quality that you can get in that moment. And your idea of optimal quality is not what's cheap. It's not just about what tastes good. For example, many of us go through efforts to make sure we drink living water. So we're not normal. Other people will be like, what? Water's wet. What does it matter? If it's soft, it tastes great. What does it matter? But to us, we understand on a whole nother level the depth of our relationship with water. And so therefore we live in a different way in relationship to water. You see what I mean? So it's like we are reinforming the matrix as the new matrix as the old matrix falls down. Now I want to say more about this new matrix idea, because the idea of giving up one matrix for another doesn't feel so great. The difference is that we're talking about the collective organic growth of nature and life force energy as it's naturally expressed. That it can be referred to as a matrix, but it's a living, breathing, organic life force that we have command within. Okay, we are nourished by it, we are entrained by it, and we have magical capacities within nature. A great and simple example is if you've ever eaten vegetables grown in a farm where the machine does all the work versus eating vegetables that was actually planted by humans or humans and horses. The kale comes out 3 times the size in a shorter amount of time. Everything lasts longer. It's like the quality of that vegetable or whatever the plant is 10 times better than the one that was mechanized, right? That's because there's an alchemy that happens between human effort and the soil. There's an alchemy that happens between you and your plants and your trees. There's an alchemy that happens between humans and the natural world. So this is what we're going to, right? This is that what they're calling the new matrix is happening. And well, maybe, right? Some of us feel like we want it. Some of us feel like maybe we don't. You know, we get to, but the beautiful thing, we get to decide. We get to decide. It's up to us because we have the autonomy to decide. These 4D misinformation distraction stuff is really to keep us so distracted so we're not actually making a informed decision. So a lot of people say this is a free will reality, but it is and it's not. The part that it's not is that we're not fully informed about the decision in front of us. We're just put between a rock and a hard place and said choose A or B, right? And we don't even, and we're so enwrapped in the trapping and being in between the rock and the hard place, we don't even imagine what door C might look like. And we can actually create door C if we had that capacity in the moment. But the charge, the emotional charge is so strong, we have tunnel vision, and we think that we only have the 2 choices that are put in front of us, right? So that's how the coercion works. That's how all the all that distortion really plays makes its mark on our decisions and where we're coming from when we make them. So this gal, Kimberly, on this network that is considered to be this character that we're talking about, the reincarnation of this Mod Queen, she has very interesting energy to her. She's a lovely lady. But when she was talking, this is, I think, the most recent broadcast, they call it the real news, because they talk about the control systems and what's falling, what's coming online, where the financial system is going, where, the different mind control systems are going. It goes into those layers. But the thing that I feel is happening is that there is an energy being broadcast by that understanding that is triggering or making connection with unresolved ancestral connections we have to these Saturn energies. Because she's talking about the Saturn matrix. She's talking about, all the different structures held in place by the being currently known now as Saturn. Or I should say by the shadow of the being currently known now as of Saturn, right? So when you have a being that's in the archetype of something in a higher level of awareness, perception, status, such as a Mag Queen status, and they are talking about these Saturnian structures as a truth that's getting reported, remember, at least 60% of it's true, right? Maybe up to 70% is true. And then the rest is misinformation. And this misinformation is meant to satiate people with expanded awarenesses like you and I, right? So this gut feeling that doesn't feel good, it's like, oh my God, it's so heavy. You start feeling in the throat. It's like, oh, feel awful. I mean, I started feeling the energy before the halfway through, and actually stopped it. So it's like, yeah, I'm really not interested in this. I'm really not interested in engaging in that level of distortion. The 4D fields distortions are never meant to inform us. The 4D field distortions are meant to get us hooked, and then we start feeding the loosh system, our despair, our hopelessness, start going through our loop, our mental emotional energy. But what's cool is that when people like you and I listen to this stuff, it doesn't trip us up for that long. And that's because inside this other level of awareness that's open to us that maybe we don't realize is decoding the traps of these narratives. So we may be biting and chewing on it for a while, but it's only a matter of time where we wake up and realize, oh, don't even need it. It's not even relevant. right? Or you realize the where the misinformation is mixed in with the truth, right? So we are, everything that we're exposing to, we're alchemizing in some way, and it may take a short amount of time, it may take a long time. You never really know. It all depends on what your particular reason for being there is. All right, I'm going to pause here, and there's a few comments to check in. Oh, thank you, Bev. She put in the link to that podcast I'm talking about. She calls it Trump floss. Okay. Then Felicia, hello, welcome, darling. She says, helpless, hopeless. That's the crap I'm dealing with, attempting to release the pattern that developed the condition of lupus in me. Oh, so frustrating and mad over the immensity of the debilitation. Yes, it is triggering. You're right. I mean, yes, it is. And it's not all for naught. It's not all for naught. There's something on the other side. There's something on the other side. And what's coming to me is that, there's things on the other side, and it's not always the stuff it's not always what we think. And sometimes it's a bit anticlimactic because of that, but the alchemy that you do in the healing of all this serves everybody. So there's something in you that either wants to help everybody, or, yeah, there's a lot to it. Actually, when I go into it, it's like this it's all twisted, and I'm actually not able to speak clearly. But I'll back off of that. We all have our things that's in our lap to do. And this is part of the marathon that we're on. We're on this marathon. Maybe we'll see the changes in this lifetime. Maybe we won't. Maybe, we'll check out at the time when, right before it all explodes and becomes amazing. And then we get to if we want to come back and experience the amazing part. Who knows? But I know that the transhumanism narrative really triggers people's nervous system, and they don't really understand why. And this is part of what I'm talking about here. It's that this is an ancient wounding in our lineage that we need to come to terms with, because once we come to terms with, then we'll be able to effectively activate our DNA that knows how to deal with the frequencies of this technology, with this terrestrial technology that we have going on, and even the interdimensional technology. There is, this is not the first rodeo. This is not the first time we've dealt with these frequencies before. It's just we don't have conscious awareness of this, but our bodies remember. Our ancestry has the pathway to reclaiming those memories. Our soul has those memories. So as we decode these pieces and unwind these blind spots and these untruths about reality that we accepted, you know what I mean? We get closer, and all of us are participating, and we're all standing on each other's shoulders, really. So where my weakness is, someone else has the strength, and they're going to do their part, which helps me with my part, which helps another person with their part. You see, we don't need to be aware at all, because it's all working off of resonance. It's all working off of resonance. So the alchemy, I had a teacher a while back, a dear brother Starshine, really potent shaman. I mean, he's still around these days, but he would tell some of the most amazing stories. And I remember him once talking about his best and most favorite client that he had healed completely and died anyway, and it's kind of like, a lot of times when we have these ideas about healing, we think that it means that A equals B equals C, right? Or A plus B equals C, but not necessarily. And in his story, it was a teacher, a woman teacher that took donations in every year to pay for her sessions with him. I can't remember. She had a certain kind of cancer, I think. Anyway, she saw him regularly to sustain, and she, in his story, she completely healed. She became so at peace with her life and reality and loving and feeling connected. And, she purged all of this ancestor stuff. And yet, he heard, I guess, word later that, she ended up dying from her illness. But she died without pain. She died without agony. It was just, that night she said goodbye to everybody. I love you. Her, says goodbye to her family. Doesn't say I'm going to die, but knows she's saying goodbye to her family. And then goes to bed and doesn't wake up. Right. So that is a example of being healed. Right? That's that letting go, dying process is not full of pain and agony and fear. It's a peaceful transition. And a lot of people don't think about that when they consider healing. And I'm not saying anything about you dying. I'm not connecting that at all. Just don't delete that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying this path of recovery, path of healing, it's not always what we think it's going to look like. But I love that story of his because it really reminds me of, what healing actually means, right? Healing is different than curing. And when we are decoding these things in that 4D field, we're not delivering necessarily a global cure to the poison, but we are creating a momentum of healing. And anybody who has the slightest bit of resonance with that, they have that much more available to them to choose differently. This is the benefit of our alchemy. And I'm deciding how to open this can of worms or not. Yeah, so a while back, I'm gonna explain this with a story. It's better if I explain it with a story. A while back, I don't really remember how long ago it was, probably a year or so. I work a lot with Dreamtime, and I had this expansive experience where I just kept expanding, and there's an immortal that comes in and out of my life named Almeen. I mention her quite often on these chats, and I was visiting her frequency again. And one of her initiations is expanding oneself to encompass one's heart, actually, to encompass the entire galaxy and then beyond. So I was reactivating this kind of thing, and the expansion just kept going and going and going and going. The levels of freedom and awareness and all, it just kept going and going and going. And then eventually I reached this threshold where the epiphany that struck in my awareness was that it quite literally goes on infinitely. It's an infinite experience. The expansion. There's never a level that you arrive at, and it's like, that's it. Here I am. Right? That's not how it is. This matrix experience is really masterfully built for us to figure out how to wake up out of, right? It's masterfully built. And we have programs customized just for us. Okay. But the fact that we can visit these places and actually quite simply and easily get out of the control systems of the matrix by connecting within and that interconnectedness, we start to realize that our goal in life is not to escape the matrix. That's not necessarily our goal. For some people, it's to live a life to unravel all the things that have harnessed their life force energy so they can transcend the incarnational experience. So they don't need to be in the incarnational cycles. For other people, it's to evolve their awareness to the point of activating the DNA to have self-realization. Some people it's that. Other people it's to heal and step out consciously out of the physical body into their other level of being without a physical body. Some people are here just to have fun. Some souls are here just to have lots of sex and make lots of money. Believe it or not, that's an experience that souls want to have, right? So we all have these soul songs that are guiding us in this progression. And my progression, I can speak for myself. I mean, you guys have to decide where you're at with it. Is that inner freedom. Inner freedom translates as outer freedom, and that means that I can be the authentic expression of me, of my soul, of my infinite self. And so that requires lots of tools, that requires lots of skills. Alchemy is one of those skills, right? Mastering bridging the waking dream and the sleeping dream. That's one of those tools. It's like all of these things participate in my overall frequency, which is that inner freedom. So there's little things inside of there that give me joy. Of course, I have relationships, I have friends, I have children. You know what I mean? I have all that just makes the path joyful. It makes it, in a way, it heals a lot of things in the wounding that participates in that lack of inner freedom. So when I'm looking at life like this, every moment, everything is serving to that, even though I might not realize it when I'm in the realm of my ego driver. But these layers within the 4D field and even the other multidimensional layers, when we work really hard to expand and clean things up, and then we're open to another layer, and then we have another epiphany, and then, oh, look, another ceiling here. There's another ceiling created by misinformation or a lie woven in with the truth, right? And then we have to decode that, and then we expand again, and then it's like the same experience, but in different layers, over and over and over again. So the goal is not to be, completely bless out all these layers. The goal is to remember yourself while you're in these layers, to remember yourself, inner self, while you're in these layers. And by doing that, you alchemize, you transcend. So what makes you happy? It goes back to that simple question. What makes you happy? What gives you fulfillment? What gives you passion for your life? And run with that. The rest of it takes care of itself, Like, I talk about this in Light Body too. It's like, we are all in for the long journey of this unraveling, for this marathon. We are all in for doing whatever it is that comes up that we need to do. We're all in. This is a life path. It's not like a course you take for 6 months and now you're certified. You know what I mean? No, this is long-term community support for the marathon of awakening to yourself. And along the way, you're going to make some beautiful things. You're going to create some miracles. You're going to, contribute in a beneficial way to the lives around you. You know what I mean? You're going to create beauty while you're on that journey. And maybe, we get caught up in some matrix stuff and we're triggered and we start feeding, getting into some of those loosh systems until we wake up. Maybe a friend of ours will come over and snap us out of it or have a phone call. It's okay. The good, bad, right, or wrong of these things puts a lot of pressure. That 4D field, when you buy into the polarities, it puts a lot of pressure, psychological pressure, emotional pressure. And that translates into physical pressure. And now we're stressed, right? Those pressures cause us stress. Happiness is different for everybody. I was thinking about this. Happiness is different for everybody. And growing up, we may have cultivated a narrative of what makes us happy, but that doesn't mean that that's actually what makes the version of us right now happy. That means that's what we imagined back then. And we're given As we heal, we recognize that we're given everything we need by the initiations of the Pachamama, of the Mother Earth, to fulfill, whatever it is that we're here to do. And these narratives in the 4D reflect to us the exact opposite of that. Those narratives in the 4D tells us we have to earn our way, we have to earn our love, we have to earn our status, we have to earn this, we have to do this. You know what I mean? We have to do all these things through obligation, guilt, shame, right? In order, for a reward. And the reward is usually status, power, money. And I can tell you, there is a program about money buying freedom, but I know a lot of people with money that are not happy. And in fact, it's like almost like the money contributes to their alienation, this belief that we have that these things, create freedom, it's not true. It's not true at all. Even those who are power hungry and search for status and power, they have to maintain that status. They have to maintain that power, so that's not something that you reach and then now you go on vacation on the beaches of Tahiti. No. It takes a lot of life force energy to maintain it. So they're not free either. They just look like they're free because we're comparing their power and money with where we feel we are, when really they could be outside looking in on us and admire our lives because we have so much freedom. We don't have the kinds of responsibility. We don't have the same weights to bear, So this is where, even the comparison thing is a program where we stamp out or make wrong certain things about us because it doesn't compare to someone that we think, it has the success we want. So this outer referencing, the 4D field just keeps us referencing externally more and more and more and more. And the more we do that, the more lost we get. Now, when you take this outer stuff to inner reference, right? Like say a person you meet, feel like instantly, you don't like them. Instantly, you're on high alert. Instantly, without them even saying a word, you're like, ugh. Right now, if you play the role externally, the dialogue in your head will be all about them and how they must be this and that, blah, 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 blah. But the real empowerment is to take notice of what's happening when they come into your field and you focus on what that is. And then now you are actually liberating them from playing this triggering role for you because you are unraveling it inside of yourself. So you become free of it, they become free of it, and now maybe a new potential can occur between you. Maybe it was like 1,000 years of going back and forth, torturing each other. Who knows? We have dances like that, right? In our soul's journey. We are infinite beings. We are infinite beings in a biosuit. We have enacted everything imaginable and then some. Right now, we are in the replays. We are in the worn out reruns of the old paradigm. We are in the reruns that haven't quite found their death yet. So every single thing we're experiencing in this life, we have already experienced a gazillion times already. But this is the time that we swear, this is the time we're going to wake up out of it. And you know what? We are going to wake up out of it. Why? Because we have the support of all these different nesting dolls, the shifting, changing, the chaos, believe it or not, is helping us make these shifts, makes these changes. Because we, as humans, many of us prefer to have fixed, stable foundation, fixed, stable status. So many of us, whether we do this work as multidimensionals or not, many of us don't make the change until the pain of not making change is more than making the change. You know what I mean? That's really how a lot of it goes. For those of us who are on the multidimensional awareness path, which is still a human path, it's just we're awoke to the nesting dolls of the unseen and like really what's manifesting, what creates things in this world. Because what we're told that creates things in this world is a total lie. It's a total distraction. It's a matrix of energy suck. But as we wake up to what really creates things in this world, we have different choices, different ways of relating, and we. There's something in there about the yikes. About the freedom thing. So I don't know why. All of a sudden, I'm like in a whole nother thought stream than what I was just on. It's interesting. Maybe someone came in and shifted the gears here. Okay, let me go back. So we understand, the other things that are contributing into the creation of this reality, and the chaos is a benefit to us because the grips aren't as tight as they have been, and now our visions, we have a moment in linear time and space where we can insert our visions, our intentions, our creations at the key moment that these things fall under the chaos. You see what I mean? And it's a moment, guys. It's not necessarily 100 years. I mean, who knows? Maybe it is 100 years of us inserting our dreams and our preferences into the collective field or into what gets created here. Maybe not. I'm not going to pretend that I know what it looks like, but I do have this inner knowing that it is approaching. This time is approaching. And I want to encourage you guys, these alternative news things, I mean, they do satiate, especially if you're bored, right? And you're sick of the same old. It's like something a little bit interesting to listen to. But we need to remember that we listen to those things not to be informed. That's not why we listen. We listen to those things for confirmation of what we already feel is happening. You know what I mean? This is how I go into it. So no matter what level of information or news I go into, even if it's a book, it's like I am reading, I'm engaging for the confirmation of something. Sometimes it's the confirmation is in the form of someone putting good words to something I haven't been able to speak about before. So that would be that's a confirmation. And it's also a helpful aha. It's like, oh yeah, now that I have words for it, I can describe it. Right. So go into these media sources like that, and you're going to be less triggered, less manipulatable, because you're not asking for these outside sources to tell you what's going on. You are looking for the confirmation. An example would be, even those plane crashes, right? So the first one, my gut instinct immediately connected it to the Chinese espionage that went on with the creation of DeepSeek. So my gut. So as soon as I heard that happening, this whole like thing came online in my awareness. And then, so now at that time when I'm listening to the news, I'm looking for cues, I'm looking for clues. And of course it did eventually come out because the manifest of who was on the plane came out. And then it made total sense. It's like, yeah, okay. So there's some Chinese nationals, Russian nationals, and their families, on this flight. And of course, who else would be in the position to get technology secrets out of the US and into Asia and Russia, right? So, and of course, I'm not saying you guys need to believe that, but that's, I'm just giving that as an example of that's the kind of ear that I'm listening. When I hear something going on, something's going down, I get this little upload or download, however you want to say it, from inside of myself in these dots connecting. And then I watch things unfold. And I know that something is to pay attention to when I really get thrown sideways. Oh, a bald eagle just flew over. Okay. Thank you. So just to add the weight to what I'm saying here. And then, of course, the crash after that validated even further other suspicions. So, that was a really big deal that the CPUs capable of advanced AI and AGI is now in the hands of other governments, not just the US. People aren't even talking about that. Why? Because it's not about informing you. It's about controlling you. It's about giving you certain thoughts and feelings that navigate you and to be in this camp or that camp, right? So these 4D field intensities are just ratcheting up more and more and more. And this eclipse that's coming up it feels like it's an opportunity to draw forward a encodements to really crack some of these things that some of these structures in that 4D field. It feels like we can overwhelm the system and shatter some structures. And when I'm talking about architecture and machinery that just does what it does to keep the losing machine going, right? So if that resonates, definitely I want to encourage you to spend time in meditation and unravel those things. The other piece is the 4D field. When we are locked into it, or when we're sucked into it, it impacts our dream time, and it impacts our capacity to recognize the different rabbit holes in our dream time. The rabbit holes are the places where spirit is directly speaking to us, right? Where our own spirit is directly conveying a message to us. Now, it's usually obscured by subconscious stuff, which is why I'm talking about this 4D field thing. It's like, when you go to bed at night, make a conscious effort to withdraw your mental, emotional energy from the 4D field. And I would say even do a nice little cleansing of your solar plexus, and, just to get all of your energy back and release any energy that came in from those collective fields, right? So when you're in your dream time, it's more about you versus you utilizing your dream time, getting utilized to process collective, because we are more beneficial being centered inside of ourselves and being a pillar of that experience. We are more beneficial to the collective than we are putting out fires out there in the collective. That's because the fires are never ending. The whole point is to keep you busy making peace, alchemizing something that's never meant to or intended to get alchemized, right? But when you pull your energy in here and go into dream time, now you are working with something that's going to have a lot of impact. Whatever you alchemize now, that's yours, you personally, your being is going to benefit from. You see the difference? So, the level of the bar of discernment's getting lifted more and more and more. And it's really worthwhile to learn how to mastery of this 4D field. Really, it's absolutely worthwhile. So maybe you can exercise the muscle, by watching certain things. I mean, this is why I'm able to do what I'm doing. I mean, you guys send me messages all the time with all kinds of triggering videos, like, "Oh, Christine, I'm super triggered by this. What's your take on it?" Or, "I can't stop thinking about this. I've been feeling hopeless since I've watched it." Stuff like that. And this is why I'm able to do it, because I'm recognizing the bigger picture. I'm looking at it beyond just that 4D nesting doll, beyond just the personal triggering experience, beyond the personal fears that's meant to get stirred up, right? I mean, yeah, I get caught into things. I do, like every other human, but it's not very often. And sometimes, I do draw the line. Like, someone will just send me a video that's really, really dark. And it's like, I'll watch a couple minutes of it. Then it's like, no more. I have compassion for myself. I do not need to go in and alchemize whatever this darkness is, like some of those videos of the different satanic rituals and stuff. It's like, no, I don't need to know. I do not need to be directly involved with that, because I'm involved enough. You know what I mean? I'm involved enough. And I've unwound that for decades and decades and decades. So I don't need to go back to that neighborhood. And if it's important for me to go back to that neighborhood, it'll get dropped in my lap. It'll come to me in dream time. It'll come to me by a client. It'll come to me in some other way. I don't need to go down the path that was specifically cultivated for people to go down. You don't have to take the road that's offered you. You can take your own road. You can make your own road, right? And as multidimensionals, that's part of the benefit of us being here. All right, so if you guys feel like you want support in strengthening your energy field and clearing out your center and really establishing a stabilized energy field and presence in this crazy chaotic world, and also have an amazing community to walk this path with, I encourage you guys to check out our Light Body Essentials program. It is when you sign up at first, we ask to commit 6 months, so you give the transformation time to land and for you to notice what's changing. But it's really meant to be just an ongoing thing, so you can build strong connections in community, you can build a strong energy field, you can practice your multidimensional tracking, you can practice the different skill sets that it takes to become what some people, I realize people are calling a Sigma empath. You guys, that was a new term for me, but now I understand a Sigma empath. That's what we're doing. It's having your empathic abilities be a part of the powerhouse of your capacity rather than a burden that you carry. Your sensitivity is not meant to be a burden. Your sensitivity is directly connected into your superpower. It's just that you've been in the reversal world for so long, up is down, right is left, your authenticity has nowhere to land. But when you're in a community that holds the space for your authenticity to come out and for you to really see clearly what's going on, now you can start making different choices as an empath and understanding how and why you've been giving your power away all these years, and start choosing differently and managing your energy in a very, very different way. You completely transcend the need to shield. Shielding is something that needs to happen when we are at a disadvantage, or when we're weakened. Shielding is not the truth in the new paradigm. Old paradigm, yes, that was a necessary thing. New paradigm, as we step into that, the shields come off, and it reveals the true alchemical power of our authentic presence. Okay, but it's a journey to go from old paradigm into transforming things with your presence, right? It's a journey to get there, and that's what Essentials does. That's what Essentials is giving you all the components you need to make that transition into growing into a powerful, centered, Sigma empath type human being. All right, that's it for me. Oh, actually went over a little bit. Sorry, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the sun. It's so warm. It's so gorgeous out here. I'm celebrating. This is not a sunny area, so the fact that I have 2 days of sun, it's something to be grateful for. Okay, guys, thank you. Mwah. Thank you so much for your attention and for being here. And we will see you guys next time. I hope you guys make it a great week. Bye.